welcome back to another lap guide video. My name is Bart, and today we'll be doing a lap guide in the Super Formula Lights car at Road America. Here's my hot lap. All right, heading down the main straight now at Road America into the first corner. High-speed corner this, fifth gear in this car. We're going to be very, very late on the brakes. Using the last cone on the left as our reference. Braking just before that, touch on the brakes. Focus on carrying speed into the corner. Low-powered car, lots of aero. Use the aero. Be as greedy as you can on the inside curb, yeah? So try and use all of that. You can see them all over it. This really helps hook the car around. Also, it just means that you're further away from running off the track here. Seems obvious, but this is a corner where it actually does matter using all the track, okay? Especially on the inside. Get throttle on whenever you can. Not as important as carrying speed in my opinion. Try and keep it away from the dirt here. Easy to get off track just by dropping a wheel here. Bring it back over. Stay on the left-hand side now for the second corner. Stay on the white line. We're going to go down to fourth gear here. This corner, important to focus on the exit. Yeah, it's a faster corner still with a tricky downhill braking zone, but really, really important to focus on the exit just because we've got a long straight afterwards. Braking, again, the one board or this nice little white line they put on the track, very good reference for us, braking pretty much there. Late on the brakes, you're going to brake relatively hard initially, as you can see there, but you're going to have to start turning to the corner, others are just going to miss the corner, and this bit of the track as well is not very grippy, it's a bit bumpy. Kind of turn in, get off the brakes, trailing a little bit down to fourth gear, get it rotated, so I get a bit of a snap there, catch it, force the car out wide, use all the curbing, and again, try and get back. That's just about okay there in terms of off tracks. Super easy getting off track there as well, so just be careful on that one. But make sure there you're not spending a lot of time doing nothing in the middle of the corner. That's what I find a lot of the case. People get afraid of messing up the exit because that they just underdrive the entry. It's much more important to open up the corner and square it off so you can be committed on throttle and use all the track. Being early there is a big problem in terms of turning early. Just come with the brake early. All right. Pushing the braking now, heavy braking zone. Braking reference again, we've got a one board braking a little bit before that, just before the start of this curb. I like to point the car towards these yellow advertising boards out here. The right tire should kind of go past the curb. This is flat, by the way, and there's no off track for using the right hand side of the track, so pretty easy to abuse here. So we're going to just try and brake in a straight line now. Heavy braking. Hit the brake really hard, down to second gear, bleed off. Just meet the kind of the end of the inside curve, or like I've done here, just clip the white line. Again, another corner where if you're early, big problems, right? If you brake early, you lose a lot of time all the way through the braking zone. You'll turn in, you'll turn out, you'll get on throttle early with a lot of lock on, then you'll get a big snap on the exit. Best way to avoid that, brake late and deep and delay your turn in, okay? Get off the lock as you get on the throttle. Force the car out, use all the curbing on the exit. Back here for the white line. Into quite a tricky uphill braking zone now. All right, down to third gear in this car. I try to be quite careful with my how I brake the car here. By that I mean, yeah, okay, we still want to carry this amount of speed, we want to get the car rotated and stopped enough for the apex, of course. But because it's uphill, right? So normally you hit the brake on flat ground, you hit the pressure really hard, especially when you have more downforce on a car like this, and you bleed out as the weight kind of goes off the front axle and the grip comes away from the car. Uphill braking zone like this, you can see there's a bit of a there's quite a bit of a crest here, and then the car lands over this bump. So I just have to kind of ease into the brakes initially, wait for the car to settle, then put more pressure on. But only for a second, because look, here we've got another crest, and the front tire is going to lock up, especially if we start turning. And that's why it's very easy here to make a mistake, because quite often people lock up on that initial bump over that crest because they brake too hard there, or they hold the brake too long into here, and it's very easy to do that. So try and maximize the braking kind of after the car lands and just before we crest the hill again here. Off the brake there, down to third. Use the inside curb here just to open up the corner as much as possible. Again, use all the track on the exit. Get back before you get off track. Easy flat this. You don't need to use the inside curb. There's like quite a big bump right in the middle of the apex, and on the exit curb there's quite a nasty bump. That just costs you time. So just clip the inside curb a little bit here. You don't need to be on the grass like in some GT cars, and just nicely touch the edge of the curb, smooth with the wheel, reduce the steering lock as much as possible, but it should be easy, okay? Okay, fifth gear now. Get over to the right-hand side, down up to sixth. A really tricky downhill braking zone. Braking, at this point, we want to be pointing straight. So many people start like pointing the car in too early and get afraid. Straight, delayed braking, be patient to turn in. We're looking to apex or meet the inside curve about there. So we're going to be looking about there, okay? Not over here somewhere. Easy trap. Brake, brake, brake. Down, you see reference-wise, just after this two board and where the white line is there. Kind of jumping off the brake at the end of the curb there, rotating the car as we get that nice brake release. Again, getting into that camber groove I talked about that you could see from the entrance there. Just as you get on that, sometimes the car will get a bit loose, very easy in this corner. If you've braked very late and efficiently and gone in quite aggressively, the rear is going to start to come around. Best way to look after that, a little bit of throttle, a little bit, nice bit of throttle pickup straight away. Don't mess around. Big problem you have in this corner is people try to take lots of speed going early and then they get big moments. If you can delay it, get it stopped so you can get on the throttle, that'll help sell the car and give you a good entry and exit. Off the lock, trying to use all the track possible. Again, just making sure we don't quite drop a wheel off there. All right, so heading to this long right-hander now, the carousel. Important here, positioning-wise, first note, as soon as you get out of that left-hander, straight away, look here. White line just before this service road. Super, super easy, simple reference. Be here or suffer the consequences, okay? So going to this long right-hander now. This part of the track quite bumpy, not very grippy. The rubber line's out over here, so we don't really want to go past, say, 2/3. I know it's a rough estimate and there's not an exact line, but come on, you should be able to work it out. The grip is somewhere around here roughly, so you don't really want to run wider than your left tires being about this wide on the track. But we don't want to breach the inside too early, so we don't want to be too tight and pinch ourselves off either, because the less lock we can use and the more we can shorten the amount of time we're actually loading the car aggressively, where we're rotating it more in the middle of the corner, the faster we're going to be, the more speed we're going to carry, the better exit we're going to get, the more chances we are going to have to overtake, the faster we're going to be. All right. So smooth, see, not running any wider than just the left tires just on the edge of the rubber. Not quite going to the crap part of the track, but just on the edge of the rubber. Flat out, super smooth in the steering. Look at the steering lock. Smooth, 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 smooth. A little bit more now. So going towards the inside, you should look to meet the white line a bit before the inside curb. Just that. It should be almost like a constant turn. Just adding a little bit more. The car's loaded a little bit more now. Now it's positioned nicely. Just going to come past the white line here. Then we're going to lay off the steering, let the car out. Don't use the exit curb. It's bumpy. We don't need to use it. This ain't a GT3 car. It's easy flat. Just you can bounce and bottom out quite badly and end up in a barrier very easily here. So don't do that. Okay, now into this flat-out right-hander. Nothing to talk about here. Don't use the curbs. There's no point. You don't need to use them. Better not to upset the aero platform. Reduce the distance. Smoothen the steering. Sprint to the left. And into a very, very tricky braking zone here. This corner always very... what's the word? I feel like it's deceiving in terms of how slow or how fast it is. It's uphill exit as well, so you lose a lot of time when you mess it up. Obviously, there's a lot of space on that exit curb, but just tricky with the kind of dimensions of this corner here. It's much more than just a 90 right. So braking wise for me, it feels really, really late. I mean, you're always braking late in this car, but for this corner, this was a bit like, okay, I've got to, be a bit ballsy here and be aggressive on the brakes. Braking at the 2 board pretty much. You can try and push past that if you want. Really go for it. Really, really heavy brake here, controlling that pressure. Just modulating the brake pressure at this point, the corner. Jump off the brake. Nicely there, get the rotation. This is something you have a really good idea of on the telemetry, so we'll go over to that. All right, so now looking at Delta, we've got the whole lap up here, but if we go towards the corner in question, let's say the second last corner as far as we're concerned. I know it's like technically the fourth last turn, but whatever. As far as I'm concerned, second last corner in this car. So, as I said, tricky braking, really important to be efficient. You can see I'm not a little bit creeping onto the peak of the brake there, just being a bit careful because in iRacing you don't want to be too quick, otherwise you can kind of shock the tire. Especially because they're not running that much wing as well. But nicely spaced downshifts, pretty simple stuff here. But what's really important is you can see efficient. I'm maintaining brake pressure. Normally in an aero car, you might think it's more of a triangle where like you really smash to the peak of the brake and then get out quickly. You've really got to keep the car straight while we're holding that brake pressure, which you can see here in the steering trace on the bottom. Keeping the car basically dead straight. And just at this point, I'm starting to decrease the brake pressure. Now I start to introduce the steering. The steering just before I drop the brake pressure here. Get it rotated. So we're living in a bit of understeer at this point, but you can also see this corner. I have to wait a little bit in the middle of the corner there. But the main thing I'm trying to get you to see here is that you've got to really maintain that brake pressure in a straight line and off pretty quick as well. It's not one of those ones where I'm really trailing into the corner here. I've got a nice quick release, and that's where you're going to get the rotation, okay? You can actually see if you look at the steering tray, so you can see I put a bit of steering on here. The moment I get fully off the brake, that's when I start to turn in. That's when the car starts to rotate. So really, really important to line that up with when you want to turn into the corner. If you feel that's coming too early, that brake release, this part of the braking zone here, then you've got to move the braking later and vice versa for the other way around. But usually, not like that, it's going to be too early. So just watch out for that and then be patient to get the throttle here. You might not be able to get to it straight away, but it is quite a tricky corner in that way. So in terms of this part of the corner, super, super vital to use that brake release that we just talked about to get the rotation while also being efficient on the brakes. Tricky braking zone. Try to meet the end of this curve. I'm always looking, it's like here. Wait, this corner is so hard. Okay, it is very tricky. So, because if you're in early here, it's safe. Because if you're wide, you feel like you never make the apex again and you just run wide and the camber of the corner kind of just means you lose time and distance and it's rough. But if you're in early, you also get a ton of understeer like that on throttle, and then you run out into the dirt. It's easy to run to the gravel, get a snap, and yeah, I know, it's a tricky corner. So always try to meet it kind of just at the end of this part of the curve where the gravel is. Come around the back of it there. As soon as you get onto that, you can be aggressive on throttle. You might be a bit patient in the middle, as I just touched on, but much better than being like this on the exit. If you lift on the exit, big trouble, okay? Because of how tricky it is. So just about get the throttle, run it out. You might not be able to use all the curb there just because you might not be able to get back in time. Watch out. Again, super easy off track, like a lot of the corners we talked about here. Bring the car nicely back over to the right-hand side. Smoothen the steering. Easily flatten this car. If you have problems here, I'm sorry, just be smooth. Don't hit the inside curb. You should be fine. Let the car run out. Now quickly get back to the left-hand side. We have the luxury of more downforce and grip than most cars you drive around this corner. Because of that, we don't need to worry about braking straight towards here. We're going to try and get back over to the white line on the left-hand side, yeah? So we're going to be braking, aiming for about there and rotating the car off that point into the last corner. Braking just at that one board, it's the 2 board, but this last white line reference here, this last kind of brake reference you have on the track. Try and be as straight as you can while you hit the brake. I know you're kind of turning. While you hit that pressure, the high bit of the pressure, I have the steering lock on. You can see it here. I have a less steering lock on. And then as I bleed out, I drop the brake and start to engage the steering. That's really important. That's where you can get lots of lockups or even just upset movements of the car and lose the rear or the front on the entry here. That's mainly because we're trying to combine too much. So we're not having the car straight enough when we're hitting with a bit more pressure. As you start to bleed out, you can start engaging the steering. Be careful with that. carry lots of speed, down to 4th gear, early throttle, force car out, use all the curb here, 100% use all the curb. Be careful about that off track again, hit the car on the left-hand side of the track, and that's a lap at Road America. So that brings us towards the end of the video now. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And you can also find a link to the Coach Dave Academy Discord in the YouTube video description. My name is Bart. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next week. See ya.